What Did I Say with Dan Rothenberg.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. I hope you are doing well. I hope your family is healthy. I hope you are raising your batting average, just taking those baby steps, just to connect a little more with your teenager or your young adult or however old your child is. Because it's important to remember, and this is something I like to keep in mind with my 12-year-old, this relationship goes into adulthood. This isn't about just getting to the finish line of 18 years old or 20 years old, whenever kids move out of the house, the 30 years old. I don't know about you, but I want to be friends with my kid when they're an adult. I want to share things with them. I don't want to just have a bunch of unresolved guilt and blame and anger. That exhausting power struggle, and your mother comes to visit you and you feel judged and criticized even though they don't mean it. And you suggest to your mother that you go to therapy together and somehow that's taken as an insult. It's just an ongoing struggle where both parties don't feel heard. You just want your feelings acknowledged, but the other person wants the same thing and you both feel gaslit. And then you have dinner. I'm hoping for an easier path to dinner with my child, because you're going to have dinner anyway, Wouldn't it be nice to skip all the drama? Everything leads to dinner. Life is nothing but filling time in between dinners. So we might as well enjoy each other, love each other for who we are. And we can start that process right now. We can start connecting and respecting and recognizing our kids as individuals. I am really excited about our guest today. You know what? So much so that I think we're going to call whatever it was I did just now at the beginning of this episode, we're going to call that the parenting tip. It's a little weak. I know there was kind of a stream of consciousness, but I want to keep it short and sweet to get to this particular interview because you're going to enjoy it. This is a little different. I interviewed my friend Greg Behrendt, who is best known for his New York Times bestseller in 2004, He's Just Not That Into You, which turned into a film, which turned into many comedy specials. He's always been a mentor to me. He's always been the guy I was looking up to. So we met in San Francisco. He had already moved to Los Angeles. And I just wanted to be him. When he was a feature act, I was an opener. When he was a headliner, I was a feature act. When he was a best-selling author and had his own talk show, I was a feature act. And when he got his comedy specials and was interviewed by Oprah, I don't want to talk about it. The point is, here we are today, and I get to talk to him. Now, a lot of you people are thinking, Dan, what does this have to do with parenting? Are you just trying to prove to us that you were really a comedian and that you know interesting people? Let me answer that bluntly. Probably. However, in addition to being a relationship expert, which is kind of become Greg's title based on the book, He's Just Not That Into You. Greg has a really funny podcast called Don't Take Bullshit from Fuckers, which has to do with dating, and he's a life coach, or more specifically a relationship coach. So that's kind of his thing, and now he's going to talk to us about his relationship with his daughters. There were so many amazing parenting takeaways. So I'm just excited to debrief with you after. So let's just dive in. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Greg Behrendt. Okay, Greg, thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I was kind of explaining before, you've always been a little bit of a mentor to me. You've always been a little bit ahead of the adulting curve.
A little bit. Well, I'm a little bit older than you.
That's true. That's true. I wasn't going to put it that way.
Yeah, that's all right.
But what are the names of your kids?
My daughters are True and Mighty.
True and Mighty.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, can you tell me a little bit about the decision with your wife, giving them these strong names? What was that like?
We just really wanted them to have powerful names. We wanted them to have names that meant something and meant something to them. And we wanted names that we loved. And Mighty is a real original.
Yeah, that is original. And it's for your daughter.
And it's for my daughter. Yeah, which I don't think I would name a boy Mighty. I think that
Why?
could be problematic.
Yeah, a little too much.
Yeah, that would lean too much into the possibility of some toxic masculinity.
That's a good point. So it's like that's an empowering name for someone who can handle it, who can handle that responsibility.
Yeah, totally. And Mighty loves her name.
How old is True and Mighty?
17, True's 20 and Mighty's 17.
Can you tell me a little bit about their change from being kids to adolescents and young adults? What that was like for you as a parent?
I kind of joke about it in my stand-up act, but when you have girls and there's a woman present in the relationship, so if you're not a single dad with girls, a lot of the communication takes place between the three of them, where I'm sort of an outlier. I'm sort of the outside of the whole situation. So a lot of the specific life changes that they went through more with their mom than they did with me. Neither of them have been rebellious. They're not bratty. They've both been really pretty outstanding kids. Like, I haven't had conflict with them on a level of just day-to-day problems. My drug addiction and my problems affected the family in a horrible way and put a rift between my oldest and me because I was just out of it for part of her life.
And before we get to that, it's really kind of amazing to have two kids. They haven't been rebellious. It sounds, I think you mentioned before, kind of self-motivated.
They're self-motivated. They like family, so they like being together. I think they believe in us as a foursome. So they're both kind of homebodies.
Wow.
And we share a lot. We share a lot between the four of us in terms of what we like culturally and what we like socially and all that kind of thing. All four of us are into clothes. The girls all connect on music. I don't connect with their music taste as much as their mom does. They're into stuff like Tyler, the Creator. But my youngest has a taste for metal.
That's kind of come back around a little, hasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, for them, everything's on the table. You know, like there's not one prevailing type of music, whereas like we went through pop punk and grunge and like there were definitely like reigning genres when we were growing up.
Yeah, and disdain for the predecessor almost.
Yeah. Always a disdain for the predecessor and I think what was mainstream and, you know, what was popular.
But hanging out with my niece, I'll be listening to my music. She'll know the words. It seems like there's more of a, like you said, kind of everything's on the table.
Yeah. I mean, the way media comes at them and the way they get media, and also they're more of a song for song culture as opposed to an album or even a band. Like they might have 5 Billie Eilish songs and no Billie Eilish albums.
So getting back to, you got two awesome daughters, non-rebellious, self-motivated. When you curl up at night with Amira, what kind of parenting allowed for that, in your opinion?
I think we placed reasonable expectations on them. We encouraged them in whatever it was that they were interested in. We never had a goal for what they should do. Given my career and my experience with college and school, and I'm not like you've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. We wanted them to go to college for the experience of going to college. You know, not because they needed a higher education, but because the experience of college, I think it's a great one. One not to be missed, you know, for the social aspects of it alone. And we want them to follow their dreams, obviously, as much as possible. They spend a lot of time with their mom. You know, they're really very, very tight with their mother.
You're comfortable just being the dad, like I'm here when you need me?
Yeah, it feels comfortable. It feels like the right thing. But for me, a lot of it has been repairing my relationship from when I was messed up. So, you know, I spend a lot of time sort of in that whatever grace they'll show me, I'll go with.
I think that having a career like you have, being creative, following your dream, you found your way, you had your journey, and you're letting them have their journey.
Yeah. And my journey was completely unexpected. But I want them to find something. I don't care what it is, just something, and then to go towards it, because if they're going for something, something will show up. I never set out to write a relationship book. I wanted to be a comedian, but the doors that opened in my life led me to a whole other different career. I'm grateful for and that I love. But I was driving towards something at the time. I was trying to be the best stand-up I could possibly be.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have guessed you would have written He's Just Not That Into You, but you were going in a creative direction, passion. Yeah. So that sounds like that's a value in your household.
Plus opportunity. I ended up working on Sex and the City, and then I met this writer, and then this girl asked me a question, and then it became this thing, and then we decided to turn it into a book, and it's a series of events that led to this sort of exciting thing.
And let's go to the drug addiction. When did that happen in the course of your success, and how old were your kids, and what effect did that have?
Well, it came on the heels of, it was a really unfortunate thing. There were two instances where I'd been sober since the 90s, but I was having mental health problems because I'm diagnosed bipolar. And I didn't know what was wrong. And one Christmas Eve, I felt suicidal, and I took one of the dogs' hydrocodone. I self-medicated myself. I prescribed myself my dog's hydrocodone.
Yeah. It's hard to claim that was prescribed for you. Dog medication.
Yeah. When it says Kaylee on the pills. So then I spiraled out with that and ended up going to rehab. Got better. Things were fine. Then I got cancer and had to have surgery, and I was prescribed OxyContin. And I was on it for 6-7 months, and I couldn't get off it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
A situation where it's prescribed, but the addiction.
Yeah, I went.
In.
What happened was I'd gone back out on the road, and I was trying to come off the pills, and I couldn't do it. Because they overprescribed me, and the withdrawals were awful. And so I found some on the road. I had my sister overnight me. And then I was stuck on that path for a while.
How old were the girls then?
So the girls at that point were probably 14 and 11.
And how did it affect your relationship?
I was just checked out. I wasn't there, and I wasn't communicative, and I was just a mess. I can't remember it very well. When confronted by the girls, they would tell me stories of things that I did, and I didn't remember it. And so it was really like that thing where you want to apologize, but you don't realize how bad it's been. I don't know when kids start making cognitive memories, but they don't have memories of being little and everything being great. But they do have memories of like it all kind of falling apart for Dad.
That's a lot of what happens. It's not what we say to our kids. It's the memories and the neural pathways created.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah. So I sobered up 6 years ago, but it's taken until about 6 or 7 months ago for me and True, my oldest, to become friends. She was super angry with me. And I moved out for a while and went and lived on my own and, tried to get my shit together.
Oh, okay. So the shit hit the fan. You got to
hit it hard
on all levels. And if you don't mind me asking, I assume, does that mean things were rocky with your wife?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Drug addiction ruins everything. And then withdrawing from it was really hard. I did it with Suboxone. So Suboxone is an opiate replacement. But it's almost as bad as just taking drugs. And it took me about a year on that stuff. And during that time, I was incredibly volatile and emotional and was making demands of everybody. And why can't people understand me? And I was really in a pity place trying to get better. And it wasn't until I finally got off of that that I was okay. And then started to just be now I'm on great medication. And my life is normal for the most part.
I think one of the hardest things, having comorbid diagnosis, you're dealing with the combination of needing the right medication and getting off of addictive medication.
Exactly.
Which makes for a total shit show.
Yeah, totally. And it was also rough for the girls. For me, the first cancer I had, I've had cancer twice. The first cancer I had was it was touch and go for a minute. And then the second time I was not living at home when I got prostate cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And then had that surgery.
Fuck. You know, I haven't talked about it on on this podcast. I've had cancer twice. I'm having my second cancer. It's like a whole other conversation.
Yeah, right.
The effect that has on you, what it does to your parenting.
Yeah.
Hopefully leads you toward gratitude and getting one shit together so you can be there.
Yeah, completely. It makes the moments more important. Like you start to understand what having a good moment with somebody is.
Yes.
That's all there is. It's just having a good moment with somebody. Having a good connection, a good laugh, you know?
Yeah. I'll be with my son, and I expect to be in remission at the end of the summer, and things should be fine. But I'll sit there with my son and, you know, we'll be hugging, and I'll just kind of go, this is it. I'm hugging and touching my son.
Yeah, this is it. And
this is a moment.
This is it. Yeah, I have those same things of like, we had a great dinner the other night. We went to True has a boyfriend that we all love, and we went to dinner with his family for his birthday. And we just had an amazing time. It was just a beautiful night. And she's in a very healthy, mature relationship with they're still both young. You know, they're both just 20 years old. But it was just such a nice, healthy, safe, lovely evening, you know? Mm-hmm. And it was something like, I got to remember this. I got to clock this.
Yeah.
This is so much better than where I was. I didn't see this happening. I mean, I really at one point thought I was going to be without my family. So.
And what's the healing process been like with True? Did you have to be active in it or just
no? Anytime I tried to get active in it, it screwed it up. Mm-hmm. Anytime I tried to make a move or do a thing, it didn't work. I had to let her come to me. And so a lot of times she would just avoid me. I mean, that was really the hard part, but she would just avoid me or walk through a room that I was in and not talk to me. But then she and I and her sister went to visit my father in San Francisco. We went to take a car trip together, the three of us. Mm-hmm. And I saw her make a conscious decision to be nice to me. And she's been pretty nice to me ever since. And I think she's had to work at it. And I think that it's something that she tries to do. We're not completely healed, but we're like in a good place.
That's kind of a lesson in just because they walk by you in the room doesn't mean they don't need you. They don't love you, but we got to let them come around. We can't control it.
And that's the thing I really realized, like anytime, and this is the same in my marriage too. It's like whenever I try and do a thing or I have an idea about how I think things should go, I'm wrong usually, you know, or I'm going about it the wrong way, or it's something that needs fixing in me and not what I'm asking for from the other person.
What do you say to the parent that says, yeah, but this is my kid and I got to make it better?
Well, I understand that. And I've said the same thing, but it didn't work because my kid is her own person. She's going to come around to her own feelings in time, if at all. I mean, I even had conversations with my wife where she said she may never come back around to you. You know, she's mad. She's upset. You know, she feels like she got screwed in this deal. And in terms of what she had to deal with while, you know, when you're a drug addict, your life becomes the central focus of everything that's going on. And you steal the light from everybody else. Mm-hmm. You know?
That's a really good point. And I think that situation can happen in many different ways. Drug addiction, definitely.
Yeah.
There's so many things that can happen that just kind of deprive them of not necessarily a focus that spoils them or indulges them, but the focus that fuels what they need, gives them confidence and love and trust.
Yeah.
And attachment.
Yeah.
And maybe it was your wife, whatever happened, you came around, you understood that.
Yeah. Well, suddenly you realize, like, I need to come into every situation humbled and grateful that anyone still wants to deal with me. Mm. I'm trying to do a living amend by being, someone that they can really count on and trust. All I'm trying to do right now is work, trying to make money.
That's something we can do.
That's something that we can do.
What can you do to just help?
Yeah. And for me, it's earn. Can I get out and earn? Can I, and that's a harder thing as you get older, especially in show business, your relevance and when, and if people need you and how often you get opportunity.
Speaking of that, what's it like to have kids that know you wrote this book, know about your career?
They're proud of the fact that we wrote the books with my stand-up. They're sort of half and half with my stand-up. They're proud of me doing it, but like they also have their favorite comics, which is weird for me because I'm not their favorite comic. Like they'll love, like they love John Mulaney, or they love Bamford.
I've done a few like school events. My son goes to his school. Once I hosted an auction because I'm a comedian.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah,
every once in a while. That didn't work out well.
Yeah.
And then
those things are terrible.
That's terrible. And then boom, that's 3 years I can't make eye contact with anyone at school or any of the parents. So I got to go to parent teacher conferences.
Yeah, no, I know.
Because of the shame, my head is down.
Yeah, those events are our first year of school. Dave Keckner, Dave Keckner. He's in Anchorman and all that kind of stuff. He and I hosted at our school an auction, and it went horrible. And our school was a nice private school. It had a lot of agents, a lot of managers, a lot of show business people. Ben Stiller was there. Was friends with my wife and his wife are best friends.
Oh, okay.
I mean, people didn't care. They'd already been asked for money. They didn't want to be asked for more money. And you're trying to make an auction fun, and it's not fun, and nobody wants to buy anything. It's just.
Greg, thank you so much.
Oh yeah, dude, it's been great.
And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Something I want to hit on, I hadn't really planned to talk about my cancer on this podcast because that's not the focal point, and cancer tends to overshadow everything, rock, paper, scissors, cancer. But it came up kind of organically with Greg, and since it did, I just want to quickly say it does inform my parenting. I would say in a lot of positive ways. It makes me grateful for the time I'm spending with my son and just the importance of those moments. At the same time, I plan to be in remission this summer and to live a long, healthy life. So it's not going to be something that I'm going to come back to a lot, I don't think. I just saw Curb Your Enthusiasm, and they were talking about taking stage 4 advice. You want to take advice from a person with stage 4 cancer because they have that wisdom and they're grappling with their mortality. I'm around stage 2. So, you don't want that advice from me. So let's stick with Dan Rothenberg, comedian, therapist, and father. And now let's talk about the interview with Greg. Just on a personal level, when we put people on a pedestal, we don't fully see them. We don't fully see their struggle. Like if I had run into Greg 15 years ago in Los Angeles and he had told me that he relapsed on his dog's hydrocodone, a part of me would have been like, dude, that is so cool, man. That is so Behrendt, because his struggles seemed cooler than my boring life without comedy specials. Like his relapse is cooler than my sobriety. But now, instead of being jealous, I'm just grateful that my son hasn't witnessed me relapse on my dog's medication or any other medication for that matter. And at the same time, learning from Greg, we can make mistakes and we can repair things if we have what sounds like an amazing wife and the ability to be patient and wait for our children to come back to us. Which leads me to probably the biggest takeaway from this interview, which is, as parents, we have the ability to lose the respect of our children, and with that, lose the authority to demand that respect back. And while it was heartbreaking to hear Greg talk about how his daughter would walk by him in a room, I mean, didn't that kind of get you? Walk by him in a room and not acknowledge him. He had to just be patient and wait. But that was a big gesture of love to his daughter. It's like saying, hey, I'm here when you're ready. That's not ignoring your child, or that's not blowing off parenting. That's sometimes being an active parent means less is more. And when we get authoritarian and feel like this is my family, and hey, don't you walk by me, young lady, and we dig our heels in because of the authority that we consider to be absolute over our children, even if we have lost it, because bottom line, we're human beings. You can lose anybody's respect. That's just the reality of it. We dig in our heels and we, hey, get back here and look at me. I'm your father. I don't care what I did. You talk to me. This is my house. If we want to be close to them, that trauma has to heal, and we can't just heal it by we can't just young lady it. Another thing Greg hit on was sometimes we're relegated to roles which aren't exactly what we had in mind when we signed on to be parents. Now, Greg was talking about finding himself a little bit on the sidelines because he had daughters who were closer with their mother in certain ways. Sometimes that's the case. The point is, as they get older, one way or the other, we become role players instead of stars of the team. And these roles have various degrees of control and involvement in our children's life. It's not necessarily on our terms or the way we would like to visualize that involvement. Like, we all want to be Michael Jordan or at least Scottie Pippen. By the way, I'm going to use the iconic Bulls team from the early 90s, which is not easy for me. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. But if I start throwing names around like Bill Laimbeer, I realize that's going to get divisive. Okay, I am willing to refer to a team that is more universally known and loved. Bad boys rule. Anyway, the point is, when they get older, we realize we might not be Michael, but maybe we can be Scotty. We might not be running their life for them, but we like to think we can be right in there with them, making decisions, even hitting a three and winning the game every once in a while. But the reality is, at best, we're John Paxson. More realistically, we're probably Luke Longley. Nobody sets out to be Luke Longley. There are no posters of Luke Longley in anybody's bedroom. But at the same time, Luke plays a role. He gets in the game sometimes. Mostly, he's on the bench. He's practicing. He's waving a towel. He's being encouraging. And at the end of the day, he gets the rings along with the other players. Every team needs a second or third string forward. I mean, that's why they still pay those guys a lot of money, right? We just got to learn to embrace it. Just like Greg. Also, I wanted to hit on, when I was editing, I left in the part about music and media to highlight how wide the generation gap is and the need to be mindful in that when we parent our kids. I'm a Gen Xer, son of baby boomers. When you look at how technology and media has changed, it was much more gradual, and we changed together with our parents. So in other words, we started with black and white and color televisions, and it moved on to big color televisions, and we got the VCR, and we got cable, but we experienced that together with our parents. MTV marked a certain gap, but overall, we were experiencing technology and changing along with our parents. And it took an entire generation before kids were just misunderstood. Like, grandparents were like, what are you guys doing with those gizmos? Now, by the time they're 12 years old, we're like grandparents because they got a bunch of gizmos. What the hell are you doing on that app? Is that porn? No, it's my science project. And the whole class is connected to it. Well, whatever. And with this rapid change in technology, which includes how media is served up to them, comes a change in perspective and how they see the world. When I started working in schools as a school-based therapist, Portland Public Schools, that's when I really got a sense of what it's like to be a teenager today. When we're parents waiting for them to come home from school, they give us the version of their life that they think we can handle. But being there with them was culture shock for me. For instance, I heard teenagers express this to me, like on a daily. And by the way, I learned that one from them. On a daily. They got a lot of cool abbreviations. Anyway, on a daily, I would have, let's say, a 15 to 17-year-old say to me in earnest, I don't understand why I have to take math and history. It's got nothing to do with my profession when I get older. So what's the point? I mean, I remember sort of having that sentiment when I was young, but it's not like they were complaining. I mean, they really don't get it. Dude, I'm not going to be a math teacher. I'm not going to be an accountant. Why do I have to take math? I literally don't get it. And if you think about it, that's indicative of the fact that they are brought up in this world where, like Greg said, you don't buy the album, you buy the song. They're going right to harder rock and roll and I want a new drug. They don't know no walking on a thin line. And they are so used to doing what's interesting to them, getting motivated for things because it seems relevant to them, and everything else seems irrelevant and boring. And we have to keep that in mind when we're reacting to them because that's the world they've been brought up in. They've got algorithms supporting that. Of course, they have to take math, but it's okay to take the time to answer that question because it's not a stupid question for them. Even as a therapist, it was triggering me. In my head, I'm like, it's school. You got to learn everything. Why do you have to take it? Because you don't know what you're going to be when you grow up. So you're learning how to learn. You're learning how to think critically. I mean, math gives us the ability for deductive reasoning. And you know what? I don't know what math does. The point is, it's school. You didn't get the memo? It ranges from sucks to sucks less, but you got to do it. Okay, on that positive note, it's now time to hear from you. Email me anytime at whatsayme43@gmail.com. whatsayme43@gmail.com. This email is from Scott Madden from Portland, Oregon, who asked, Dan, do you suggest monitoring your child's academic progress on Parent View on a daily basis or just every once in a while? That's a great question. Parent View is the app or website where we can see everything our kid is doing at school. First of all, Parent View is a reality and an option for parents. And so what I'm going to say is an opinion, but this is how I see it. And I'm coming from a place, in general, of trying to look at the diminishing return of being over-involved in our children's lives and the benefits that come with allowing them to make their own mistakes and have their own experiences. And then we come in and help when there is actually a problem. I have some kids that have a 4.5 grade point average and their parents are still monitoring every move on Parent View just because that's how we've come to define parenting. I would say that there's nothing wrong with using Parent View sparingly and trying to work your way off it. So to sum up, there are positive aspects to being involved with our teenagers' lives to provide structure and accountability. But if values such as responsibility and independence are also important, you might consider maybe doing an experiment and saying, okay, my child's always been good at social studies. I'm going to back off of that one and see what happens. See if they take the reins themselves. Give them that opportunity. Lean into that fear. And that's what I work with your children on when you send them to me. Having anxiety, leaning into the fear, often the results are not as bad as we think. Thank you so much for joining me on What Did I Say? We'll see you next time.